Well, today is going to end up being the final video that we do for 2024. It's been a quickly going by year, and I thought I would share with you my journey with cancer for this final video. So stick around. Well, hello again, Internet. Welcome back to the channel. Yeah, like I say, I'm going to share today the journey that I have had with cancer for our final video for 2024. And I've shared this before a couple of years ago, and but we've had a lot of new subscribers since then, so I thought we'll go ahead and go through this again. I'm going to try and do this in a timeline fashion as much as I can. You may see a little bit of cutting on this video because this is not something that's extremely easy for me to speak about. I've always had a leadership role, and to be vulnerable is something that I'm not too used to. So there, might be some of them cuts here and there that just drive me crazy when I see them on a video. But it is what it is. If I need to kind of gather things up, I'll cut that part out. But I guess this whole thing started in February of 2022. And it was February the 11th that I woke up. That was a Friday. And it was just a normal Friday. I was thinking, okay, I got to make sure I get out and get that bride of mine something for Valentine's Day for Monday, and figure out what we got to do to finish things out for work in that shop and what we were going to do over the weekend. And as I was getting ready, there was blood in my urine. There was quite a lot of blood in my urine, as a matter of fact. And so, immediately I said, well, I got to get into the doctors, and, told Michelle, and we kind of thought, well, this is not good. This like kidney stones or something. And boy, that's going to be tough. That's going to kind of mess up our weekend a little bit while we get that taken care of. But I went on to the doctor's office, and my doctor's close at noon on Fridays, but she said she would call me. She sent me immediately for a CT scan. And so I got the CT scan, and I come back home, and she called me. I guess it was about maybe 1 o'clock, so I'm not sure if she was still in the office or if she was calling from home, but she said, I promised you I would call you, and I certainly meant to keep that promise. And she said, you might want to sit down. She said, Mr. McLaughlin, you have a very large mass in your bladder, and you need to see an oncologist immediately. And you talk about something that can knock you over. Yeah, that's something that can hit you pretty hard. That's something that can hit you pretty hard. And so, of course, my first thought is I've got to get a hold of Michelle. Michelle happened to be out. She leads a hiking group, and she was taking them on a hike. And I didn't even want to call her because over the past, from that point, year to 2 years, she lost a lot of very close friends and family to cancer. And to tell her that her husband of, I think it was 37 years, 38 years at that point, now he's dealing with it. And you might lose him to it as well. That was a tough call to make. But I went ahead and made the call, and of course she immediately stopped her hike, and they all actually did a group prayer. And of course she come home, and we started trying to call oncologists, and we called, one of the first places that we called was UNC Chapel Hill. They're supposed to be one of the, arguably one of the best cancer hospitals on the East Coast. And so, we called a couple numbers to them immediately. They couldn't even get a doctor to see me for 4 to 6 weeks, something like that. She crumpled that paper up, threw it away. And so, we went on to the next one, and they couldn't see us. And nobody was able to see us, but there was something that just kept eating at her to get that page back out of the trash. And I guess it was about 3 o'clock or 3:30 that she did get that page back out of the trash. And it's right here. She actually saved that page. And she called a separate number that was listed on there. And who she got a hold of was Sarah. Now, Sarah was the assistant to Dr. Smith, who was the head of the urology oncology department. And she told Michelle, you have him here at 8 o'clock on Monday morning. She asked if she could, and we're like, yeah, absolutely, yeah, we can. And so we got into an appointment immediately. That was a big relief and an answer to prayers, I can tell you that. And that weekend come, and you know, that was probably the longest weekend we had ever spent. You get some news like that, and the news that I had was I had a very large mass in my bladder, and my thought was, I really don't have much time left. And we look around, you know, we don't have a big place here. We've got our small little farm here, but we've worked pretty hard on it. I was very proud. All the fencing, well, you can't see the fences now because a lot of it's been taken out, but all the fence posts, well, I put them all in by hand. All the outbuildings that are here, majority of them, I put them in myself. I built them myself. I look around this home, and you know, majority of the furniture in this house, I went ahead and built myself, and always been very proud of all that stuff. And all of a sudden, it had zero meaning, nothing. But when I looked at Michelle, that had meaning. And my thought the whole time is, what can I do to make sure that I can take care of her when I'm gone? That's real when you get hit with something like that. And I know other people that are out there, some close to me, some that I'm just acquainted with, that they've been through that, and sometimes for much longer than I went through that. And unless you've been through it, you have no idea what it's like. We spent a tremendous amount of time in prayer that weekend, I can tell you that. And Monday morning come along, I went into the doctor's office. We got in there, and she says, I have no idea how you're even sitting in front of me, because I don't even have your chart, because this was lined up at probably 4 o'clock or 4:30 on Friday. She had to go and get my chart. And I will tell you, the doctor that my primary care actually read the CT scan incorrectly. It was not as large as what she was telling me that it was, but there still was a problem with it. And we discussed the different, the different options that we had. And the best option, because according to her, the best option would be to do the surgery and then do a biopsy of it. And I'm going to tell you right now, God put me in that chair for a reason. And so I listened to that option, and she scheduled the surgery for, I can't remember if it was 4 weeks or 6 weeks, something like that out. And so yeah, that was pretty good. Now, this was Valentine's Day in 2022. And of course, we had already, over the weekend, went over and told my daughter what was going on. And when we got the news that it wasn't as large as what they originally told me, and that, you know, we were scheduled for surgery, I wanted to go over and see her. And it just so happened my daughter was just pulling in when we pulled into where she lived. She was just pulling back in with her bike on the back of the on the back of her car. When we started riding e-bikes, she started riding a bike as well. You know, when the COVID got started, and so she said she was just out. She was just out riding at a park so that she could have some time to reflect and pray. And she was just staring at me. And I didn't know what to say to her, to be honest with you. You know, I was kind of stuck for words. And there was the first project she ever helped me with was building a chess table. She helped me build that when she was little. And she always said, Daddy, I want that chess table. And I said, well, you can have that chess table when I'm dead and gone. But until then, it stays in this house here. And I looked at her not knowing what to say. And I finally said, you know, that chess table you want so bad, you ain't going to get it for a long time. And of course, she burst into tears, you know, when I said that, and gave me a big hug. And she was crying and I was crying. And I can't remember if it was her that said something or if it was me that said something. But I said, I do remember telling her, there's no sense in you crying now. And to break that ice just a little bit further, she says, well, yeah, Dad, but I had a chess tournament all lined up. So, you know, that broke some ice. But so, you know, we were on a little bit of an upswing at that point. And as that day went on, the hospital kept calling me and saying, we can schedule you for, you know, this date. I think the first date was the 19th of March. They was able to get me back that close, which would have been about 5 weeks off. So it must have been 6 weeks that the surgery was out. But she called me a couple more times. And by Wednesday, and it was the same woman that was calling me every time, and she said, Mr. McLaughlin, I have no idea how this has happened, but we can get you in next Monday, the 21st. And I'm like, hey, let's do it. Let's go ahead and do it. So 1 week after I seen the doctor, they had me in there for surgery that wasn't scheduled for 6 weeks. And it was 10 days after I had a symptom that they was going to go ahead and do the surgery. And of course, she said, I don't know how this happened. And my response is, I do know how it's happened. So, but that week went through and I had surgery the following Monday. Now, I'm not going to get into a whole lot of the surgery details or anything, but, you know, I don't do surgeries well as I'm getting older, so they're pretty difficult on me. But we got the pathology report on this, and I went in to see what was going on with that. And she said, okay, here's what we've got. We have a low-grade cancer. That's good. She said, but there's a little bit more. What we have is high-grade focal points. And what that means, from what she explained to me, is it was in the process of changing into a high-grade cancer, which would mean it would be a completely different conversation if we didn't, or if we were not able to get rid of that. It would be, we'll just leave it at that, a totally different conversation of how we deal with it. But she said, we're in hopes that we've got everything with it, and we're going to go from there. And we developed a plan that was set out to be a 3-year plan of treatment. And it's what's called a BCG treatment, and it's not a pleasant treatment, but neither is cancer. And so we set that up for, I believe it was June, something like that. And the first time, it's like every week for 6 weeks, you go in for a treatment, and then you go, I think you do that twice, like 3 months later. And then I think it goes to every 6, then it drops down for the rest of that year. Every 3 months, you go one time a week for 3 weeks. And then it goes to every 6 months for 3 times, once a week for 3 weeks. And it continues on in that fashion there. There was one instance, some of you guys that have followed me a little bit longer, I had another surgery. One of the scans that they did, they said they was afraid there was some cancer that was returning. And it was their suggestion the best thing to do would be to have that second surgery, and so we did do that second surgery. We found out later that second surgery wasn't actually necessary. It was a surgery that came from something that happened with a treatment. It was a human failure in the treatment right there. And I'm not upset at any of the humans that did that, because even the very best doctors have what they call a practice. But regardless, that surgery was a totally unnecessary surgery, but we went ahead, we did it, and we continued on with our treatment plan. And yeah, and that brings us up to today. And I've talked with Dr. Smith not too long ago, and to get up to that 3-year plan would have been, well, number one, my treatments were going on in November, December, because I ended up getting COVID. It was scheduled for, I don't know if it was August, September, something like that, but I ended up getting COVID, and so they had to push it out some. And that 3 years post-surgery would be next February. And so we got to talking, and I said, you know, what's the chance of this coming back? Where do we go from here? And she said it was really up to me on if I should do this one more round of treatment or if I should go another round beyond that. And with the risks of the human failure in there, I decided that, you know, we're going to go this round here, and then we're going to still monitor for another, I think it's 2 or 3 years that we still monitor. Very little chance of anything coming back. And as I said, I know who healed me, and he doesn't practice. And so I said, okay, we're going to go with, you know, this next set of treatments, next round will be the final round. And that's why I'm putting this video out right now. Actually, this video is coming out on Friday, of all time, Friday the 13th of December. That's the day of my final round of treatment. And that's why this is probably our last video of this year, because I probably won't be able to ride the rest of this year. We've got, you know, that next week I won't really be able to do a whole lot as far as riding bikes and stuff like that. And then we're going to be doing some traveling for the holidays. So I wanted to, you know, make this my last video, and it happens to be uploading on the last treatment that we're doing. And yeah, I just wanted to give you guys my testimony out there of how that worked. Now, I had mentioned early on that, you know, we may have to cut this up, and I did have to cut out some sections here where, you know, things were kind of difficult for me. But I had also made mention that I was in hopes that this could maybe help somebody. And what am I most in hopes in a way that it would help them? Would it be to keep track of your health and get things checked out as you need to? You know, that would be a great message to send to people out there. And yeah, if somebody's able to do that, that's really good. That's really good. What would be another, quote, moral of this story right here is if you're a believer, and we all kind of fall into this, we kind of treat God as Santa Claus, and we go to Christ when we're in need, and that's the only time. But, you know, I can tell you, I don't think we've ever missed saying thank you since that weekend. That would be an important message that I would want to get out there. But you know, what I would really like to see help as well is if there's somebody out there that you're on the fence, or you don't believe that there's anything out there that's in control of all of this, you might want to think some more, and you may want to actually pull up some history facts, and because there's God is real. I'm going to tell you that right now. And if you'd like to speak with me, my email address is in the description of this. You can email me and I'll give you my phone number, and we'll chat about that. I'm no expert on anything of that nature, but I can tell you what I do know is facts and share that with you, and I would gladly do that. That would be what I would say really a big meaningful help to somebody right there. With all that being said, hey, I think I'm going to bid you a Merry Christmas. Remember what the reason for the season is. And if I don't get any more videos out there, you guys make sure you have a Happy New Year, because we will see you again in 2025. And yeah, I always say this at the end of every video is, stay safe, God bless. And I'm going to tell you those two things right there, I mean from the bottom of my heart. And keep the wheels rolling. Once again, we're out.